Welcome to Luxury Leaders, your favorite podcast about all things hospitality. I'm your host, Brandon Stone, and today's guest is Scott Roby, the CEO of Pacifica Hotels in California. Scott, thanks for being on.
Hey, thank you, Brandon, for having me. I'm excited for this time together.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Southern California. I think we might get a little rain, which we need, but it's a great Wednesday.
Awesome. And if I understand correctly, you're just finishing up month number 3 there in your new position.
Just past my 90-day mark, so I guess I'm ready to give the State of the Union address.
Awesome. How did you get recruited by Pacifica?
Yeah, it was kind of a moment of synchronicity. So, I've followed Pacifica for years and years, both as just a local hotel company, but also as a competitor in my past life, and always had a lot of respect for them. And, LinkedIn is a great connector of people. And one of the brothers, Chris Marquis, reached out on LinkedIn, just said, hey, we've heard about you and we've known your name for a while. And we just never sat down, and you're in Aliso Viejo, California, here in Orange County. We're based here. We should get breakfast. And so we sat down, had an incredible breakfast, great chat, a lot of alignment, and continued the conversation over the next month. And ended up agreeing to do a consulting agreement as they were thinking about the future of the company and where they were headed. And so it's been a real match made in heaven.
Awesome, awesome. LinkedIn is definitely a great tool, and it's my bread and butter for sure. Um, and so, tell me a little bit about, for those who don't know about Pacifica Hotels. They have about 40 properties. Is that correct?
So we're at 30 right now. So the family owns about two-thirds of the portfolio, and then about one-third are truly third-party managed. Um, Really, Pacifica is known for irreplaceable real estate along the California coast. They've been in the business a long time. The legacy company's over 50 years old, and really bread and butter is independent, soft brand, boutique hotels, coastal or near the coast. We have our own membership program called Pacifica Perks. And so really that legacy continues to live on. As the company's grown though, we've added hotels that are hard branded as well. And of course, I think if you can manage and lead in an independent space, you can really excel in the branded space as well. So great portfolio. We're in both California and Hawaii. The family owns hotels in Portland and Seattle as well. So really focused on kind of this regional uh, um, operator platform, and we're just very excited about the future potential here.
Have you found a favorite baby hotel out of the portfolio?
That's like asking to pick your favorite child, which I have
Exactly.
5 kids, and I'm not going to fall into that trap, Brandon. They really have been touring the hotels as part of my onboarding, and both the physical assets as well as the quality of the leaders in the field, GM on down, as well as just the smiles on the faces of the team. Is such a great place to start for me as a leader to know that we have that foundation. So it's very, very exciting. But yeah, and I don't have a favorite. I'm very, very pleased with the quality of the portfolio, and I think it's beneficial to all of the hotels as you think about cross-selling, marketing the whole portfolio, and guests having experiences at different hotels, throughout their either singular journey of driving from San Diego all the way up to Half Moon Bay in San Francisco. You can literally stay at a Pacifica hotel your entire journey. And obviously, doing the coast highway trip is sort of a rite of passage and a bucket list item here in California.
Awesome. So they see that consistency as they go through that coastline.
Yeah, and really consistency not in a brand application, right? But consistency maybe in how you feel and the fact that you're going to get local experiences at each of these different spots. So, the coffee that you're going to get at the Wayfair San Diego that's right on the sand in Pacific Beach, is from a brewery right up the street, local following, and you're going to have a different cup of coffee when you get up to the Central Coast, whether you're in one of our hotels in Pismo Beach or Cambria or Half Moon Bay. So really this experience of the local community. So it's consistent in maybe how you will feel and that you'll get to embrace the local vendors and partners, but maybe less so in the, oh, it's a copy paste at every single asset.
Nice, nice. So it's consistently different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're going to get a surprise and delight and some unique experience at each one, but you will get that experience at each one.
I love how you incorporate the local city and vibe and things into the properties to give that unique feeling, but keep the level of service the same.
Yeah, I think that's what our guests are looking for, right? Like, if you want to travel and you're drawn to travel, I think you're drawn to it because you want to experience something different than your everyday life. So, if you are a Starbucks drinker, you may be open to what else is out there. I'm going to a new place. I want to feel like a local when I'm there. And so I think guests really, especially ones that book independent hotels and lean that direction, they're looking for this experiential, stay. And so that is what we are trying to meet them at.
Nice. Let's back up a little bit into how did you get into the hotel industry? And I know you went to school at Cornell, is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's interesting. I was listening to your podcast with Mary Rogers, and she talked about the impact that Ritz-Carlton had on her. And Ritz-Carlton actually is a big part of my story in kind of a different way. So my dad worked for Xerox Corporation on the service side of the business and helped them win the Malcolm Baldrige Service Award. And as a business strategy, Xerox wisely said, hey, why don't we go out to our customers and do some education on what our process was like to win this prestigious service award? And so, my dad enjoyed travel, and so he said, "Okay, great. I'll take the Ritz Carlton account." And so my dad would go around and train managers at different Ritz Carlton hotels. I was in sixth or seventh grade at the time, and on occasion he would grab me and I'd get there and they'd put me with the HR person, and the HR person would tour me around the hotel while he was doing the training class. And so I just got to see these absolutely beautiful luxury hotels and how they talk about training their staff and the credo, or ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, all of those things at a very young age. Seeing dinner plate ups for 1,500, person banquets, and just kind of these eye-opening experiences as a kid. So it was a combination of that and getting to travel with my family. We used to vacation in Hawaii, coming from California, as kind of an easy trip to go get away. And so just seeing that aloha hospitality, and how the Hawaiian culture treats family and guests, it was incredible. And so I looked at that and I said, wow, this is a really cool career. These people, their goal is to help create family memories for our family. And so, middle school into high school, I started working hotels in high school, and really had caught the bug by the time it was college application time. So, applied to Cornell, was fortunate enough to go there, spent 4 great years surrounded by other people that are passionate about the hospitality environment, many of whom I'm still friends with today. And so, yeah, that's how I jumped into it. Coming out of college, I went with Hilton Hotels Corporation down in San Diego on the commercial side of the business. Revenue management was a new practice at the time and really getting its legs under itself. And so really dove into revenue management and spent the first, I don't know, 15 years of my career in revenue management and just loving it, loving the data part of the business, the competitive side of looking at your star report each week and month and figuring out did we win or lose. And so, went from Hilton Hotels Corporation to KSL Resorts at their property in Carlsbad, California, called La Costa Resort and Spa. Spent a couple years there, really understanding what revenue management is like at a massive resort with two 18-hole golf courses and a 45-room treatment room spa, and tennis and all of these different revenue aspects, and kind of learning about the commercial side of the business through that realm, how important it is to keep in touch with your customer and personalize offers, all the things that KSL is known for. And from there, back in '05, I went to a small family owned company called Tarsadia Hotels. And they had a portfolio of comfort inns and small independent motels, but they were clearly going places. They were in the beginning of their development of the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego, which is in the Gaslamp District across from the convention center, next to Petco Park. And it was just kind of this main location. And they hadn't started building yet, and they were clearly going places. And as I went through the interview process with them and understood their culture, and how they treat people and how they hold people accountable, it was very intriguing. And so I joined them, and had an incredible 19-year run with Tarsadia Hotels. And then that rolled into Evolution Hospitality. So we spun the management company out in 2011. I was one of the founders of Evolution Hospitality. And we grew the portfolio from 8 hotels at the time that we spun out, to 25 hotels, and then we combined with Aimbridge Hospitality, ended up becoming a subsidiary of Aimbridge, and then over time continued to grow the portfolio. So I left early last year, and like I said, went to breakfast with the Marquis brothers, and the rest, as they say, is history.
How has your background in revenue management and analytics impacted your view on things and your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a piece of it, right? I think as I explained to you how I got into the business, it was a big part of just the guest experience. And I'm a big believer in the service profit chain. And even when I was in revenue management, if we take care of our team members, they're going to take care of our guests, and the guests are going to take care of the revenue. So, really revenue management is one piece of the puzzle. As time has gone on, and I'm talking about decades, hotels were rooted in hospitality first and probably a business second. I would say now, there's just so many real estate investment trusts and private equity and, big family offices, that these are investments now. And, really, you have to look at the business aspect of it. But I am a big believer that we are going to get to the end results if we do the right thing by the team members. And especially as you think about a management company, right? What do we have? We have our people, we have our tools, we have our processes. Like, that's it. That's what we have to sell, to the market. And so, in order to be differentiated, we've got to start with attracting, hiring, retaining the absolute best people in the industry, because they're the ones that are going to go take care of the guests. And again, those guests are going to bring in the revenue.
How do you go about attracting the best and retaining the best?
I mean, it really starts, at a very foundational level. And it starts with, how is the company treating its current team members, and what are they saying out there? How happy are they? How engaged are they? We just wrapped up our team member survey a couple weeks ago. We had over 90% participation, which is starting there. I think is a great sign that we are doing the right things. That people want to be involved in a two-way conversation, with us about how happy they are, where they see opportunities. And so it's now our time to respond to both keeping the things going that people are very happy about, like our Pacifica Gives Back and how we engage in the communities, as well as things that are opportunities. And so we're going to, be very focused and vocal about we've heard your feedback and hear the things that we're doing to respond to that. So I think it starts there, just building a culture that people want to be a part of. And this is a small industry, as you know, Brandon. So everybody's talking. And so as our team members are out there, sharing their experiences, people are going to be curious about job postings with us and say, well, gosh, I'm hearing great things about Pacifica. And so I think it's, on us as leaders to make sure we are removing hurdles for our teams and being great listeners, asking great questions and responding. And if we can do that and make this an incredible place to work, it is going to attract other great team members.
I like that. Treating your people well, and they will sing your praises out to the hospitality world and help attract other great team members.
Yeah.
So it really does start at a foundational level.
Yeah, and I think there's also the flip side of that, Brandon, right? Like not accepting mediocrity. And that's sometimes the hardest part of any business is, identifying people that are not the top and making sure that you are coaching and counseling. And if that's not working, that you're ready to move on. And those are sometimes difficult conversations. But as a team member, you're looking around at who you're surrounded by, right? And if the company is accepting mediocrity, then there's the risk of other people, taking their foot off the gas, maybe getting back on their heels a little bit. They want to know that they are surrounded by other passionate people that want the best for their peers and best for the company. And so sometimes we have to have those hard conversations and we need to move on and elevate the quality of the team because everybody's watching.
You mentioned coaching. Tell me about your coaching style. How do you coach your team members, and how do you know leverage your background to try and fit all that knowledge you have in your head into someone else's in a short amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, I spend time with each of my direct team members once a week, just talking about what are the hurdles that they're facing, what are the successes they've had last week, and recognizing them for that. And really focusing on, where else can we help them or their team improve. And as an example, yesterday I was reviewing the team member satisfaction report with one of my leaders and just brainstorming on, hey, what are some kind of questions that you can ask and what environment do you want to ask those questions? What, is it going to be on Teams? Is it going to be in person? And so, really, I try to have an open dialogue. Most of the time, the team knows what the answers are. So I try to ask more open-ended questions than I do just give the answer, because I want them to continue to build confidence that they actually do know. They just maybe want a little bit of reassurance or some additional direction. And so most of the time, I'm asking, what do you think? Or what would you do in this situation? And so if we can do that, it's going to push them to think critically and also reassure them that they actually most of the time do know the answer in the end. And then I think the other piece of it is, knowing when somebody's ready for different pieces of information or, different guidance. To your point, maybe you can't dump everything that you know in one sitting or over time. And one of my mentors, I think, was so good at that of really knowing what is the organization ready for, what are individual leaders ready for, and pacing out the knowledge so people can work on certain things. And then once they're ready to go to the next level, then kind of continuing to push them along on their own leadership journey.
So it sounds like a little bit of Socratic method with your teaching and coaching.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Nice. And then, tell me a little more about your leadership style. How has it evolved over the years with your experience with evolution, with your experience with, your consulting? Um, how has that kind of changed and transformed to what it is today?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, revenue management is for the most part, a single contributor sport. There's good collaboration with the team. You're collaborating with sales and marketing and operations, but in the early state of a revenue management career, you are not having people report to you. You are grinding, you're looking at data, you're making changes to rates and distribution methods and all of these things. But early in the revenue management career, there's not a lot of leadership outside of kind of collaborative leadership. Whereas, if you come up through operations as an example, probably relatively early, you're in a front office manager role or a housekeeping manager role. You pretty quickly can have people reporting to you, and you're starting to hone those skills early. And so I think, you know, early in the career, I was sitting, I was young, I was sitting around the table with people that had been in the roles for a long time. And I think that trained me and taught me to be humble and to not come in and think that I know it all, right? As a 22-year-old, director of revenue, you're sitting across the table from a, I don't know, 45-year-old director of sales and marketing. And you've got to learn to be humble, to ask good questions, to be curious, to look to get their wisdom. And so I think I've carried that foundation through. The last 5 years at Evolution, I was in a senior vice president of operations role. So I had shifted from the commercial side of the business to overseeing general managers. But as I explained my career path, I've never been a general manager before, right? I've never sat in that seat. And so to be humble enough to know I don't know everything these guys know, and to ask good questions and to be more thoughtful about the leadership aspect of coaching and helping them versus me getting in the weeds with them about the technical things that they are doing to be successful because I hadn't sat in that seat. And so, here I am now as the leader of Pacifica Hotels. It's a new group of people. It's a new portfolio of hotels. There's a lot of new dynamics. And so I've really spent the first 90 days listening, right? I've done listening sessions with the general managers and with the home office team in a variety of different ways. I've collected information from owners. I've done surveys. And so just really learning and listening and trying to understand what is the current state, what are the needs, what are the things that they're excited about, technologies that are either great or troublesome. And so I think my leadership style, to get back to your question, is kind of rooted in this foundation of curiosity and wanting to hear what their experience is. And from there, I can be in service to them.
But good point. You can't do that until you truly listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been a fun experience, right? Because again, the teams know what they need. They know the hurdles that are in front of them. And I think it was just the simple act of being asked, right? Perhaps they had brought it up before, maybe hadn't gotten a response, or maybe they just hadn't been asked before and didn't want to bring it up. But here we are, we're asking questions, and now we're able to quickly remove hurdles of things that have been points of frustration for people for a period of time. And it's not unique to this company, and I think you see it everywhere. But as a leader, and I'll need to remind myself, right, continue to do this. This is not just an onboarding exercise. This is an exercise that's ongoing. And so for us as leaders to constantly be out and asking these kinds of questions is going to help us create an incredible company.
And as far as, you're so far along in your career, how do you continue to make sure you're getting better? How do you, um, do you ever work with executive coaches? Does Pacifica ever have coaches work with their GMs, or do they have their own program? How do you, once you're at the top, how do you get even better?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a few things. It's listening to podcasts like yours, and hearing different perspectives from different leaders. And like, even if you pick up one tidbit from every podcast that you listen to, it's like, okay, if I can let that sink in, that's going to challenge me in a new and different way. I tell my team often, I want you guys to challenge me, and I don't want you to just take what I say and go do it. I want you to ask questions and help me think about it and push me. And then I would say just conversations with other leaders in hospitality and frankly, elsewhere. Getting different perspectives from different industries. But I've got a great network like many of us do in hospitality. I doubt that conferences for accountants are as fun as conferences for hospitality. And so just to continue to run into people over and over and just hear, hey, what are you struggling with? What are you thinking about? And hear different perspectives in those conversations, jumping on the phone with somebody and saying, hey, I'm dealing with this. Have you ever faced this? And what did you do? So I think that that's the main growth. I'd love to tell you, I'm, an avid reader. I never have been trying to get into, listening to Audible and hear, more leadership books that way. But I think mine is mostly in relationship with others and just trying to get different perspectives and ask questions. I think mentorship is critical regardless of where you are in your career. And I've been very fortunate to have, a great number of mentors in my life. And so, I sit down with them and I say, here's what I'm facing. I'd love to just chat for an hour or two. And, of course, they've been gracious with their time and helped me be a better leader.
Nice. So having a good network, a good support system, people who are kind of in the trenches at other properties that are in the industry and um, like you said, very honored for you to mention my podcast, listening to my podcast, um, and just being able to have those mentors that you can go to.
Yep.
It's great. I one of the podcast episodes I had was Michele Grosso at the Langham in Boston, and he mentioned, every single hotel he visits when he's traveling, he tries to get one or two cool little things, whether it's a certain thing that they leave on the pillow, or just different things that you see around that he tries to get inspiration from to bring back and do similar things at his property.
100%. I mean, part of the reason we're in this industry is because we love to travel. And so always having my eyes open and trying to stay when I can at hotels that are not ours is important as much as, we want to balance that with experiencing what a guest experiences in our hotels. But seeing other vantage points and, hey, what else is somebody doing in our market? Is there anything that we can do? And, kind of take that as a seed and what is our version of it? How can we take it to the next level and really ante up the experience for our guests?
What were some childhood experiences that prepared you to be a CEO of a big company and organization like this?
That's a great question. I mean, look, I will credit my dad with being an exceptional leader. And so, as much as a kid is exposed to how their parents act or behave in a work setting, right? I wasn't going to work with them every day, but I think through osmosis, I learned what an incredible leader is, what a humble leader is, what a curious leader is. He had a big responsibility at Xerox and, was constantly in the field. Even things like how he dealt with trauma. There was a traumatic incident in Hawaii at one of the company's offices, and he packed his bags and he was on a plane a couple hours later, and we didn't see him for 3 weeks. He was just there and he was with the team, consoling them and working with them, getting them resources. And so just I think to watch, if you can be present, if you're a kid and you can be present to, how your parent is talking about their work situation and picking up tidbits. I would give a lot from my childhood period to how my dad behaved and how I witnessed him showing up as a leader for his people. And then look, the service experiences, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but not specifically. And I'll just tell you one anecdote. We were at the Turtle Bay Resort, and I don't know, I was probably in like fifth grade or something. We went during Christmas, and so my Christmas gift was a boogie board, and I was so ecstatic, you know. But if you know the North Shore of Oahu, that's not really a place that a beginner boogie boarder goes. And so we're in the restaurant, and the server is, this total surfer guy, and like just so hospitable and so warm and welcoming. And Mary actually talked about this on your podcast as well. I think his laser focus in hindsight was engaging with me as one of the kids sitting at the table to enhance the experience for the parents. And so he was just, building this rapport with me and having this conversation about boogie boarding and surfing and, oh, we should go out, And I was like, wow, we never did. But the fact that we had this conversation and this bonding moment, like honestly, that one engagement for me is one of the reasons I'm in hospitality. And so just trying to think about what did he do to build that connection? How was he focused on that? And how can I carry that as a leader of an organization? I would say that that was another kind of childhood, uh, maybe point of impact.
Let's talk about work-life balance. How do you maintain that and stay sane, so to speak? Because the hours, if you let it in this business, can can be a lot. So, what are some of your best practices for keeping a balanced life?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I came in to Pacifica, I think in my second leadership meeting with the team, I shared with them, I said, look, you guys are not going to see me before 8:45. And that's not because I'm, not a morning person or because I'm lazy, but I want you to know that it is mission critical to me in my life that I take two of my little kids to school every day. And so it's an anchor. It's something that is frankly a non-negotiable for me. It starts their day off right. Frankly, it starts my day off right. So kind of in my mind, having some non-negotiables of, what's important to you, what's important to your family, and making sure that you hold the line on that. Obviously, there are times that I have to travel, and those are exceptions. But if I am in town, I am taking my kids to school every morning, packing them lunch, having breakfast with them, and that brings me to work in a better place versus feeling like I had cut them short or not delivered for them. I think it just positions me to be able to come in and continue to deliver at work. So I would say that's one thing. I try not to be on the computer when my kids are awake, and kind of having some boundaries around that. I talk a lot about when you're having time off, with my leaders, that my expectation is that you're not emailing, that I'm not going to be emailing you. So making sure I'm aware when people are out of the office for family vacation time, and really trying to protect that, because honestly, when I go on vacation with my family, I don't want to be, hey guys, I need to peel off and go do a couple of hours of email. I want to give my family the attention that they deserve. And if you can create a culture in the company where that can happen, it's going to increase satisfaction both at work and at home. And so it's just, you're right. It's that balance that we're all trying to look for. But at the same time, I have a high expectation of myself and the work that I produce. I have a high expectation of my availability to my team. And so, I'm going to be there and I'm going to show up. And when I'm there, I am going to be present, whether it's at work or it's at home.
Sometimes it's challenging to set boundaries, and when so many people are vying for your attention and needing something. So how have you learned over the years to say no or later?
Yeah, I would say that's one that I'm probably getting better at and working on continuously. We're in hospitality, so hospitality tends to be a yes space. We're just trying to figure out, hey, how can we deliver for the guests, like, some outrageous request, or, in our case, a team member that needs something. And, so the rooted desire is yes. And so that is something that I'm constantly like, okay, what are the highest leverage activities that I can perform as the leader of the organization? And if I'm not doing high leverage activities, I am not serving the company and the people in the company in the best way possible. And so I think that's really the filter that I've put on now, as I've gotten into this position is I need to be in the lane that the company needs me to be in, and I need to be in the focus space that the company needs me to be in. Otherwise, we'll get stuck in kind of this tactic, maybe less urgent, or sorry, more urgent, less important activities. And that's just not where we need to be as leaders, right? I'm a big Covey guy. We spent a lot of time talking about Covey at Evolution Hospitality. And so you really have to think about what are the important but non-urgent activities that we can invest our time in. And so that's the filter that I'm really using to say, yes, that's something I should be involved in, or no, I'm going to let you guys run with that, come back and let me know how I can help. But I don't need to sit in that meeting, or I don't need to go on that trip. And it's empowering too to the team, right? So give them the opportunity to go run with that project. And I don't need to be in everything, and have them come back and share what their successes are and maybe anything that they're struggling with or have a question on.
So it's the balance of learning what to delegate and what to keep on your plate.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I'm very familiar with the four quadrants of Covey. Urgent and important, urgent, not important, not urgent, not important. Was that three? I think I'm missing one. But yeah,
Right.
extremely urgent, extremely important.
Yeah, so
Um,
to think about each activity, that you're doing in those buckets, I think is super helpful. And you can kind of catch yourself, oh, I've fallen into non-urgent, non-important activities. I'm in a bad place right now. I need to pull out and not spend time here. This isn't highly leveraged activity. It's not really benefiting me or the organization. And helping others, do the same thing as you continue down the levels of leadership and say, hey, is that really something you need to be spending your time on? Like, why don't you delegate that and empower somebody to go run with that project and have them come back to you?
yeah. What drives you?
That's a great question. Look, I think I'm intrinsically motivated. I kind of always have been. That's a big piece. I'm motivated by the success of my team, and seeing them succeed, whether it's in an interaction with another team member, or being recognized for something that they've done, that really gets me amped up. I have 5 kids at home. I mentioned, the two little ones, but I have 5 kids at home, and I'm highly motivated to make them proud and to make sure I'm taking care of them. So I'm driven to perform at work, but also be a great dad. I think it's holistic, um, but I'm driven by a lot of different things to perform my best, to be the best version of myself that I can be, and to give back, to this industry and to the people that have, helped me be who I am today.
That's great. And let's let's talk a little bit about where we've talked a little bit about the past. Now let's talk about the future. Where is Scott going in the future? Where's Pacifica going? And what about that is most exciting for you?
Yeah, so really, this has been a family-run company for a long period of time, owner and operator, and I think there's a lot of companies that are kind of in this space, and especially with interest rates where they've been and the industry, relatively flatlined in year-over-year performance. I think a lot of companies are thinking about, what is the next chapter for us? When I was doing consulting, my company is called Storyteller Hospitality, and it's really rooted in this idea of everybody has a story to tell and everybody's thinking about what is next. And so I think about that kind of in the format of what is the next chapter, and where are we going? If you turn the page, where can we go? And so as I've been talking to the marquees, over the last year, really about where they want to go, I think they're in that space that a lot of owner operators are. They don't think that their highest leverage activities are spending time on the management company per se. They really want to be focused on the real estate aspect of the business and their assets, how they can improve them, what capital investments they can make, how they can refinance or recapitalize their portfolio, what new hotels they can go out and acquire. And so there's a lot in that. You can't be diving into the day-to-day management of, hey, what was our RevPAR index last week at hotel number one? So really for them to, partner with me and, come in as a leader that can take the management company, really off their hands and continue to be a great collaborator with them. We meet once a week. I give them updates on what I'm working on, what successes we're seeing, what challenges we're facing. And we have this incredible collaborative relationship. But other than that, they're able to focus on the real estate aspect of the business, which is what they wanted to get out of this partnership. So that's a big part of it. Look, we want to continue to keep the family owner operator perspective and feeling in the company, right? People love coming to work for a family office. But in that, we're also going to work to expand the portfolio after we set a great foundation this year. So as I think about 2025 first, 2025 is about making sure we have the right people in the right seats on the bus and that we have the right technology stack, that we have the right processes, and that we are focused on elevating the current portfolio. So if we can do that in a meaningful way, and we can then have case studies of our current portfolio, then in 2026 and into the future, we'll have these stories to tell other owners. And really, we're not looking to be a third party manager in the traditional sense. We're looking to be perhaps a third party partner, collaborator with the owners and have this relationship where 1 + 1 = 3 or more. And, there's a lot of stories where the owner and the operator are at odds with each other, but there are also a ton of stories where the owner and the operator are incredible collaborators and they're in lockstep and they're talking back and forth about ideas to take the asset to the next level. So as we think about what the future of Pacifica Hotels is, we think about it more in this relationship with other owners, almost like a collaborative. If we were to bring other owner operators together and have this viewpoint of an ownership mentality from the manager and thinking about the business in a more holistic fashion. So I don't think you'll ever see us going out and just taking contracts for the sake of growing the company. I think our real desire is to find people that we align with, find people that we love and that we care for and respect and can have mutual respect for, and that we can work together in a long-term relationship. So that's what I'm most excited about. We don't have a desire to grow and sell this platform. We don't have a desire to go and be acquired or partner with some big firm. Really, our desire is to create a world-class company, grow it organically and methodically, and with people that will not drain our resources, but will be additive to the overall experience.
And you touched on this before. It comes down to the experience you're offering the guest. Tell me, as closing thoughts, how do you elevate that experience for the guests? What all goes into that, and how do you make sure consistently that as much as possible every guest has an amazing experience, an amazing time, an amazing memory that they create that they'll never forget?
Yeah, goes back to taking care of the team members first, right? So we have to model for all of the team members from how I and the vice president, regional directors of operations, how they interact with their GMs, how they interact with the team when they're on property. And so we've got to start there because we are modeling every single day what we expect them to do with the guests. I took the team soon after I started, on a quick executive retreat down to San Diego. And one of the things that I did in advance, a few weeks earlier, and I didn't connect it at all to our retreat. I just said, hey, look, in my effort to get to know you, here's a quick survey. I'd like to know some things that you like. What's your coffee order? What's your, adult beverage of choice? What's your favorite candy or snack? What music do you like? Questions like that. I think it was 8 questions, very simple, probably took them each 1 or 2 minutes to complete. And I had this little mini database, for my direct reports. And so, I just left it at that, right? I said, I just want to get to know you. Now, as their leader, I have these very simple pieces of information. Some of them won't cost me any money to show that I'm recognizing them. Some will, a candy bar will be a couple bucks. Uh, Alcoholic beverage, $15, musician, favorite musician. Who knows? Like one day I may buy somebody concert tickets for their favorite musician. That's going to be more costly, but I have now this range of touch points. And so what I did at the retreat is, I went to the store and I bought everybody's favorite snack. And, I made a playlist with everybody's favorite music. I had a coffee order ready at the coffee bar when we came back from our beach walk. When we sat down to dinner, the waiter, the server came out with everybody's drink, you know. And so just these little touch points, and they were like, whoa, like we see what you did. And I'm only do a I want to take care of them because they work their tails off and they do incredible work for our company, and I'm very appreciative of them, and so I want them to experience that appreciation. But in turn, I want them to go and do that for their teams, and I want their teams to do it in turn for their teams, and then their teams are going to do it for the guests. And so, really, at the end of the day, it's rooted in setting the example and showing the team what we expect them to do. So I'd say that's kind of the planting the seed and the expectation setting. And then on the flip side, what gets measured gets done, right? So we have secret shoppers that go into our hotels, quality assurance audits, even for our independent properties. We obviously measure, social media scores, guest feedback from Google and TripAdvisor and all of the different sites. And so we're measuring that, right? And we're holding people accountable to delivering great results. And if we see those scores sliding or not going in the right direction, then we're coaching and counseling and talking about what are the hurdles. And if it's capital needs, we work with the ownership group to invest in the capital to remove those hurdles. Um, but even when you have capital issues, if you're treating people right, you're giving them surprise and delights, and you're making personal connections, your scores are going to be higher. And so that's something that we talk about a lot is what was the one-to-one guest to team member experience and was it a wow? So that's how we try to do it.
That is awesome. I love that story. Um, it kind of made me think, the getting that information, learning that whole process probably started with your revenue management um, background, and that's a great way to turn that into a positive guest experience from the trickle down effect from the top. So I love that. I'm sure that the employees were blown away that you showed up with their favorite candy bar or knew what beverage they had. Um, and now they get to go and do that to the guests who are then blown away as well. So that's very, very cool. I really, really like that.
Yeah. It was fun to do. I mean, it felt really good and to see their reactions and it kind of unwound across the day. So it was kind of fun to watch like, wait a minute, like why are you playing, this music? Is it because you know that I like this music? And like over time they were like, oh, okay, we see what you did here. This is from that little survey that you did, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it is.
Makes me think almost, could you do that when a guest is checking in online or buying, booking their stay, can you have some sort of simple, what's your favorite candy bar? And then have that on the pillow when they get into the bedroom.
100%. I mean, you can make it optional. Nobody wants to add another field to a booking process because you don't want to slow it down, but it can be optional. One of the benefits of us having our own rewards program, Pacifica Perks, is we do have the ability to collect that kind of information. So I think we need to look at that and make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure we know our guests as well as we can. And then honestly, part of it is on site too, right? You have to create an environment where the team is listening constantly. So again, it's simple, but you have to train it. So if a front desk agent is checking somebody in and they hear like, oh, tomorrow is the kid's birthday, um, we need
Make
to
it
be we need to be recording that in our CRM. We need to be communicating it to the team and we need to be acting on it. But another quick story. Obviously, the Los Angeles area has just been absolutely ravaged by wildfires earlier this year. We have many hotels in Los Angeles, and the way that Dan and Pauline, two of our GMs in Marina Del Rey, stepped up and led their team to be proactive as we were taking in all of these evacuees and setting up in a meeting space, basically like a little pantry, far beyond what a market in a hotel lobby could do. But really, their whole team was engaged in listening. These people literally ran out of their houses with a computer or a couple picture frames. And it was so sad to see, but they had pets that didn't have food, or they, didn't have basics like Tylenol or aspirin, or, just very simple things that in their state, they didn't need to go to a pet store or a CVS pharmacy or whatever. We can provide for them. And so the team was listening, taking notes, asking questions, and providing this completely free to the guests pantry. The community was very engaged in bringing things to us also, because I think the community realized, hey, a lot of these evacuees have ended up in hotels. But the team did a beautiful job of laying this out in a very kind of respectful manner of like, hey, if you need a pet thing, go over to this side of the room. If you need personal, medicines or things like that, go here. If you need snacks and food and drink, that's over here. And so just the leadership that our entire team showed through that tragedy is another example of proactively anticipating guest needs, but also being incredible listeners and acting on the information that they or the team received.
Yeah, it does no good to just write it down. You have to act on it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Scott. This has been a great conversation. I've really loved learning about where you came from, how you've gotten to where you are now, where you're going, where you're heading, and where you're taking Pacifica Hotels. I'm super excited for you and your future, and it's been a pleasure to getting to know you a little bit better.
Well, likewise, Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time and congratulations on the success you've had with this podcast. It's a lot of fun to listen to, but really enjoyable having this conversation with you.
Thank you.